And we had some training weekends up in Tahoe and stuff like that. So there were good milestones along the way. We had some milestone races and yeah, I mean it's the same basic principle of the marathon training where it's like get a plan and stick to it. I did get injured. I was not doing a good job of thinking about recovery and like taking care of my body otherwise. I wasn't sleeping much. I was going through a lot personally. So on the one hand, it was like my anchor activity that like kept me more grounded than I think I would have been otherwise during that tough personal time. But
Mhm.
um, I was a little unhinged. So not sleeping well, drinking a lot, um, not eating a lot, but not necessarily the highest quality diet, and certainly not fueling very well. And I think all of that contributed to my getting injured a couple of times through that
Yeah.
process. And then I was determined to still do my race. So in spite of like a doctor's orders to not do my full Ironman, I was like, okay, but I'm going to. So, and then she was like, okay, then I'm done. I can't spend more time with you. She was
Yeah.
like, I got like to your point about 20 minutes. She was like, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm not spending any more time with you. Please don't come back. And I was like, okay, I respect that. Like, I
Yeah,
actually,
right.
to me, that earned her a lot of points.
Yeah.
um,
Well, what kind of injuries were you dealing with?
I strained my lat.
Mhm.
So I think it actually all stemmed from somewhere early on in that sequence while I was doing a bunch of heavy lifting. I hadn't been taught to drop the ball. I hadn't been taught all the safety considerations with squats. So my personal trainer at the time just sort of, I think he forgot that we hadn't covered that. And so I was trying to do a heavy squat. My right knee buckled a little bit. And rather than just dropping it and letting it go, I kind of shimmied it up. He
Ooh,
said it was the scariest thing he's ever seen in the gym. There was probably, I think there was like 200 pounds on the
man.
wall. It's heavy.
Yeah.
And at the time, I almost passed out. Like it definitely, like the surge of adrenaline and so on definitely happened. And like we stopped the session immediately. I didn't feel like acute pain over the next couple of days or anything like that. But I still think that is not unrelated to general issues that I have. And like certainly, and it probably came from imbalances, right? Like chicken and egg.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that messed up some things in my right gutted chain. And
In your low back or?
yeah. So
Yeah.
like I think glute med, like who knows what exactly. I think just that fascia might even have gotten like I'm not a doctor or a PT, but like my sense from how it all feels and like talking to my masseuse and so on is that we might not even be able to pinpoint which like muscle fibers or something got, but it probably all got traumatized.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is you could have injured a portion of your spine in some way, or just had an injury related to your spine. And
Right.
a secondary response is those muscles get super tight because all they want to do is protect your back. And
Mm,
so your what you may be feeling is that muscular pain, but it could be related to other things. But regardless, we're not, not here to treat you now. But it certainly played, I'm sure it played a huge role. I mean, getting on the bike, swimming, everything.
yeah. Well, and I strained my lat. So um and like my and then we discovered who knows where when this started, right? But like that same doctor, um we had before we came to the conclusion that I shouldn't do my race, um she was doing a bunch of tests to see like basically after the lat, but it was after the lat strain, but my right lat just like wasn't firing.
Hmm.
um and like there's definitely some nerve stuff that was a little bit funky, and we weren't sure if like we didn't I told her I was going to do my race anyway, so we stopped looking into it, but like not really sure if it was like a pinched nerve or something like that or what. But there was a particular, I was doing my first half Ironman distance race. It wasn't an Ironman brand race, so it was better. But at one point, one of the kayaks, because during the swim in a try, people are watching you on kayaks, and one of the kayaks came over and he was like, "Do you know you're swimming in circles?" And I was like, "No." Um, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." I was like kind of crying, and he was
Yeah.
like, do you want to stop? And I was like, no. He was like, okay. Do you want
Should
me
you
to
stop?
guide? Yeah. Do you want me to guide you in? And like, do you want me to like, because I was dead last, I think, getting out of the water in that race. And he was like, do you want me to like kayak next to you so that A, if you change your mind, as maybe you should, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
here and can like pull you in. Um, and if not, then like I at least can give you directions basically to the finish line. I was like, sure. um, and I got out and finished that race, but it was after that that I wasn't, so then I wasn't allowed to swim for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
This is all still training towards the first Ironman in Tahoe, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was. And then, oh, and then, so I finally recovered from the lat stream, and I had started seeing a PT for all sorts of reasons, but she was like, the knee buckling thing was from other weaknesses, right? And imbalances. And so we were working on that as well. And then, and she thankfully was part of my tri club too. So there was one, I remember one bike ride when she was riding behind me and she was like, now I see, we need to adjust your fit, which was great.
Yeah, that's
But
pretty great to have.
yeah, so all sorts of things, right? But then I wasn't allowed to swim for a couple months to help the lat heal. Um, then I was finally allowed to swim again, like a month before the race. But then I just had a stupid clipping in incident on my bike, and like, just like, you just sort of fall over. But I fell over onto a rock and split my knee open and had to get a lot of stitches. Um,
Nice.
and so then I couldn't get back in the water for a while because that needed to
You
heal.
so how'd the swimming go for the real event? I mean, you barely did any training,
It was actually fine. I don't
really.
know what happened. Maybe it's just because it was cold enough that like,
You numbed everything.
yeah, it's just like a big ice bath. It was 33 degrees when we got in the water, like the air temperature. And then the water temperature was like 58 or something. It was
Jesus.
freezing cold.